Obviously, it's extremely upsetting that this happened. The speaker has acknowledged his mistake and has apologized. But this is something that is deeply embarrassing to the Parliament of Canada and, by extension, to all Canadians. I think particularly of Jewish MPs and all members of the Jewish community across the country who are commemorating Yom Kippur today. I think it's going to be really important that all of us push back against Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation, and continue our steadfast and unequivocal support for Ukraine.
Yeah, that's what happened. Russian disinformation caused the government of Canada to salute a Nazi there. And when Zelensky came to address Canadian Parliament the other day, that's what happened. It was the Russians' fault. Hey guys, it's Adam from Rescue Michigan here tonight. We may have Patty on later tonight. We shall see. Not sure what her schedule was going to allow for her. But I felt compelled to do a stream tonight because we did not have one this past Sunday, nor the Sunday before. And it's been too long, guys. It's been way too long. If I don't look and sound even as mediocre as I did in previous streams, it's because I have been dealing with some personal health issues for the past 10 days now. My back has been in varying degrees killing me. And it really, a week ago Saturday was bad. And then Sunday was much, much worse. I could barely even move at all. And it got better after that. But then this past Sunday, it got really bad again. And I ended up going to urgent care. And I'm doing better now. I'm doing better. And the world does not stop when you get sick, unfortunately. But both of these past two Sundays were just the worst 2 days. And I thought about doing a stream, but I couldn't even think straight, honestly. But I am better now. And we've got a lot to go over because it's been a busy 2 weeks in politics at the state level, the federal level, the international level. I don't know how long the stream tonight's going to go. We'll just see. I've got like a long list of topics. I hope it doesn't go too late. Hey, Mark Richard on Facebook, we see in the chat there. And we are also live on Rumble and even on YouTube. We're also live on Twitter as well, or the platform formerly known as Twitter. I do not see comments that people post on Twitter. When you see me kind of looking up and away like that, it's because I'm checking on Rumble. That's just the way that goes. But anyway, it's been quite a past few weeks. So I guess we'll come back to talking about the Nazis in Ukraine and in Canada a little bit later in the program, because those aren't. I mean, it's quite interesting and revealing all of that stuff. But I think most people would say the big event in Michigan this past few weeks has been the Mackinac Republican Leadership Conference. So we definitely have to talk about that. Real quick, though, I had a question for everybody watching in the chat on all the platforms, which is, should we do another presidential debate stream tomorrow? We did one for the past debate, and I felt like by the end of it, it was almost insufferable. There was no Trump there. And of course, President Trump himself will be in Michigan tomorrow for his announcement. And other than the fact that Asa Hutchinson, who is some guy you've never heard of, is not going to qualify for this debate, that's going to be different from the last one. I don't know, though. It may be worth doing. So let me know in the comments if you think we should cover the debate tomorrow. I got an invitation to watch the debate with the U of M college Republicans, and they apparently are playing debate bingo, which appeals to me. So maybe I would do that instead. I don't know, but let me know what you think. Should we do a debate tomorrow? Let me know. In the meantime, other things have been happening despite my injury. We have some new features at rescuemichigan.com. You may have noticed this. I'll pull up on the screen, but we made a new tool that allows for anybody to see what has actually been going on in Lansing for the past 7 days. So if you're at rescuemichigan.com, I'll go to the homepage so you can see. There's this big banner, Operation Watchdog. You click here. There is a new tool at our already lengthy menu for being able to track what's going on in Lansing. And it's at the bottom here. It's called 7 Days in Lansing. And the idea for this came about when at the end of last week, we were looking at just all the new bills moving forward and being introduced, including a ton of spending increases, fee increases, elimination of sunsets on various costs and fees and things. And there was just so much going through the cracks. It's like, if we just threw this at everybody so they could see just how much garbage is going through the state legislature every week, it would be amazing. And I actually made a new tool for this page that goes beyond what any of these other things do. You can already view every single bill in Lansing here. You can already look up your complete legislative record for all of your lawmakers. You can look up every single recorded roll call vote they've taken, and even a couple that were not recorded. You can look and see how many times your lawmakers have voted with the Democrat caucus, which for Democrats is almost invariably almost all the time, if not all the time. And for Republicans, kind of an amazing spread there. And we made a new tool a few weeks ago to list off all of the bills that every single Democrat voted for. So you can see how pervasive the consensus is in Lansing. But this new tool has a brand new feature. And we've just started tracking now something new in Lansing, and that is when bills are moved to second and third reading. So let me show what I'm talking about here. If you click on this, you get a rundown of everything that's happened in Lansing in the past 7 days. And there's a few bills that show up here and there that are going further back, but that's because of just how that's looking at the database, because sometimes they don't do anything in Lansing. Not every day do they do something. But we have a listing here. First was the votes. All of the votes that were taken in the House and the Senate in the past week. You can see the House was a lot busier than the Senate. Here's all these fees I was talking about: increasing business corporation fees, nonprofit corporation fees, LLC fees, Union Securities Act fees, licensing fees for various technical people, commercial lookup fees, vehicle registration fees, and this goes on and on and on. Every vote from the past week is now listed, which would have been too hard to find using the other tools we already had here. But then there's this new tool, bills moving forward. And this is our way of being able to show you what bills are the ones that are going to be the most likely things that might come up in the upcoming week. So what I'm going to do is update these every Friday. And last Friday and the one before, you may have got an email from us, which had all of this information in it. And it's just dumping this down because the legislature typically meets Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So whatever is coming up on second and third reading on the Friday, or on the Thursday rather, is likely going to be voted on the very next week in whatever chamber it is. So you can see here what bills are moving forward at this very moment. So sometimes a bill will pass committee. It'll be placed on second reading. You would think it would probably get a vote on the floor the following week, but sometimes it doesn't. And usually that means the momentum is gone for some reason. So these are the most recent bills that are moving at this very moment. And you can see we've done some email about this past week. These abortion bills placed on second reading in the House. We'll talk about those in a second because there's been some interesting developments on those. Bills to criminalize intimidating election officials, even if they're committing crimes, placed on second reading in the House last week. That's actually a good sign. Only second reading. Didn't go to third reading this week. That's encouraging. But we shall see. But anyway, this is a great way to get a picture of what's moving in Lansing right now. And this is already informing our opinions on the things that we're looking to mobilize people about, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And then also there is the complete listing of all of the most recent bills that have come in. So let me know, by the way, let me also know if you don't get those emails. They're going to be coming out every Friday. Any week the legislature is in session. And as I was making the email this past Friday, it occurred to me that because all of these bill numbers are links and all of these bill sponsors are links, maybe sending out emails like this would cause a spam problem, because there's different ways that they do anything they can to prevent you from sending emails to people, and spam is a concern. So it might be that the number of links we put in these emails we're pushing out Fridays with all of these bills, all these links, which are, from our perspective, this is important information, but to an email domain host, they might think this looks like spam because there's 2 links in every sentence here. So let me know if you guys are not getting these emails. But if you get our regular action alert emails, hopefully you're getting these too. But this is just one more thing we can do to increase transparency in Lansing, which there always has to be, because otherwise nobody else is going to talk about any of these things. You certainly don't hear about these things in the media. Although there was a big story this past week, and that is that Democrat Karen Whitsitt is a no on that package of abortion bills we just looked at. And those abortion bills, actually, I'm going to put these back up on the screen so we can talk about them. They are now on second reading because they still passed the committee, because the Democrats gave themselves, I think, a 3-seat majority in the committee it was assigned to. But these bills, 4949 through 4956, and there's some that are missing here, interestingly. But Representative Karen Whitsitt, for those who don't know Karen Whitsitt, she's a Detroit area Democrat. And interestingly, here's the story. She got COVID in 2020 at the height of the pandemic. And on the recommendation of Donald J. Trump, took hydroxychloroquine and immediately started feeling better. And then truthfully said that to the media. She said, oh, yeah, I have to thank President Trump for recommending hydroxychloroquine because it did wonders for me. Might have saved my life even. And for that admission, because the objective fact, or subjective in her view, that it saved her life, her telling the media that story when the Democrats wanted every single story to be how COVID is killing everybody and it's all Trump's fault, went against their narrative. They ran a primary challenger against her that year just because of that. I mean, think about how sick you have to be to do that, to attack somebody politically, to try to unseat them for telling the truth about a life-saving medical treatment. And every single Democrat went along with that. They supported her primary challenger. It's remarkable in and of itself. But Representative Whitsitt survived the primary challenge, still is a Democrat in, fundamental ways. I mean, look, you see it right here. Look at this. She's the sponsor of a bill to allow companies to drive voters to the polls, which is something that the legislature had outlawed years ago for obvious reasons, that is a form of electioneering that just isn't reported. So I'm not saying Karen Whitsitt's some any kind of saint or anything, but she at least has enough of, I guess I don't know that her testimony about the hydroxychloroquine stuff qualifies as an independent streak, but at least maybe she has some hesitations about just going along with the Democrat Party unconditionally. And she said, no, I will not vote for these bills. In particular, she said that one of the concerns was that there's going to be 24 hours notice. That would not even apply anymore. We shall see. We shall see if she holds her ground. If not, and we did an email blast about this, call Lansing, because you don't know if any Republican is going to go sour on this. And any of them might, because that's what rhinos do all the time. They get worked over by the governor and by the Democrats, and they say, hey, you don't want to finish your term having accomplished nothing, do you? You want a PA. You want a public act. You want your name on a bill that gets signed into law. You can tell your children you did something. Well, we, the Democrats, we can make that happen for you. Just vote yes on this bill, and we'll give you something for yourself. You can say, I did that. I did that. And you would be amazed how many Republicans would fall for that kind of garbage. But they do. So we'll see. In the meantime, though, this is extraordinarily encouraging news, because this whole package of bills is a plank in what I would call the Democrats' 3-step plan for child sexual mutilation, which is a part of the abortion thing, by the way. You don't know, when they passed Proposal 3, they threw into it, by the way, this also creates an individual right to sterilization. And for that matter, all matters relating to sex. is how it was put in Prop 3. 4949 is the codification of this. It's in the language of this bill. If you look at it, you can just click on it right here. Official text. Here we go. Where's that term? Here we go. Every individual has a fundamental right to reproductive freedom, which entails the right to make and effectuate decisions about all matters relating to pregnancy. That includes sex, including but not limited to prenatal care, childbirth, postpartum care, contraception, sterilization, abortion care, mismanagement, and fertility care. So there's that one part. The individual right of all people, including children. There's no exception for minors in here anywhere, to be sterilized. Then you have House Bill 4087. That was here we go. Right of children. This is a new bill, by the way. And when I say a new bill, I mean contrasted with and what's called an amendatory act that would change an existing law. This would be a new law. And it would be a law that says, let's see where it is here. A homeless or runaway youth may consent to, contract for, and receive medical, dental, or behavioral health examinations, care, or treatment without a parent or guardian's permission, authority, or consent. And remember, what was part 1? They have the right to sterilization to all matters relating to sex. So that allows for minor children sex change operations. And that's right there in House Bill 4087. Now, interestingly, we got news from Lansing that the Health Policy Committee in the House is going to consider House Bill 4085, 4086, and 4087. I'm sorry, not 4087, just the two, 4085, 4086, which is funny because, look, they're a package. They're sequentially numbered. Look at this. Here's the House Fiscal Agency analysis. And they're taken up as a group because that's what they are. They're a group of bills. So they've heard from us about 4087, but 4085 and 86 lay the groundwork. So it would allow. So 4085 still allows the government to provide runaway youth without parental consent services. So that's in there. So that's why we did an email blast about that earlier. Actually, it might have been just yesterday. Anyway, so the three-pronged plan for child sexual mutilation. First, legalize it. Secondly, allow kids to run away from home and get it. And third, subsidize it with your tax dollars. And yes, they've got that going too. Let's just go back here. And where's that bill number for? Let's see here. Oh, maybe it was one of the ones that didn't make the list. Let's see here. 4950, 150. Yeah, here we go. 4958. This is the official description. Abortion is a service provided with public funds to welfare recipients. And also make your healthcare provider pay for it. Require medical services provide coverage for abortion. So there's 4958 and 4959. Anyway, all these things, folks. Who else is telling you about them? Nobody. But Operation Watchdog, we got you covered. We're keeping up with everything that's going on in Lansing all the time. And boy, is there always a lot of it. Bills on renewable energy. I haven't heard much from the House or Senate about that this past week. We were told those are going places. We talked about that, I think, on a previous show. To mandate that Michigan go with 100% renewable energy by 2035, say goodbye to say goodbye to having consistent energy, period, and say hello to much higher bills. There are bills in the Senate. I will pull these up so you can see. This is unprecedented, but yet still dangerous. A bill to ban firearms from people convicted of misdemeanor domestic violence. This is going to be a tough one. And that's just because convicted of domestic violence, oh, well, those people shouldn't be allowed to have guns. Well, problem, of course, being, assault and battery is a felony. What happens all the time in the criminal justice system is you get charged with something, you plead down to a misdemeanor. So all the time, people plead guilty to misdemeanors that they didn't really commit because you know what? It's only a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. But this, I believe, would be the first time, if it was passed into law, that Michigan would have a law that strips gun rights from people convicted only of misdemeanors. I mean, there's conditions you can have on things like, for example, like if you're convicted of drunk driving, you can have your concealed pistol license suspended, but they don't take your guns away. But this would ban firearms from people convicted of misdemeanor domestic violence. This bill, I'm told, is coming up very soon. So something to keep an eye on. Will be hard to push back against, could possibly be sued against, but that's never the ideal way to go about doing things because that means someone's life is put on the line and praying for a good result in the courts. And it's a terrible thing. Here's a funny one. We'll look at this. This came out this past week. Mandate the House, and the other one's the Senate, mandate the House and Senate fiscal agencies produce racial impact statements on every single bill. So already they've got these, we just looked at one of them. This is the House Fiscal Agency Analysis, and they give you a fiscal report of bills. Usually these summaries don't really tell you very much about the bills. Sometimes they're better than others, but almost all the time they have these fiscal impact statements. And the way they're written is always confusing because they'll say, this bill would have a positive fiscal impact on the state, meaning it increases taxes. Or they'll say, this bill will have a negative fiscal impact on Michigan, meaning it lets you keep more of your own money. So what they call a positive fiscal impact is bad. What they call a negative fiscal impact is good. But anyway, they want to add to every single bill that comes before the floor of the House or the Senate a racial impact statement. Imagine for a moment how that would impact Republican votes. If every other bill says, "Oh, this will be really, this will be better for white people in Michigan than for black people in Michigan." This is an invitation for racial browbeating of lawmakers on every single bill. And this just came out last week, so there you go. Mark Ashley Price on Facebook says, "What does the Michigan Board of Education do?" Well, for the most part, they make recommendations. I should have Tom McMillan on to say more. But that's an interesting question because a lot of things first of all, a lot of school policy is set locally, but and a lot of it's set by statute. So the State Board of Education, you would think they have all kinds of control over all the schools. They don't have all that much. And I know I've heard them lament how little power they have, although it's probably a good thing. But basically, where they often have an authoritative role is in areas that have been delegated by the state legislature. So it's essentially within the same way you have administrative rules where the legislature says, and the department shall promulgate rules saying yada yada yada. Well, now they have the ability to grant the Department of Education or the Board of Education power, but they don't have like firing and hiring power over any school district or anything like that. He says a second reason why I ask by me being a sitting local school board member is because I'd rather have a close working relationship with the Michigan Board of Education than with the Michigan Association of School Boards. Well, those two things are completely different. The State Board of Ed, you have only two Republican members, Tom McMillan being one, Nikki Snyder being the other. The Michigan Association of School Boards is a private entity that claims to speak for all of the local Michigan school boards. And all of these types of associations are typically controlled by leftists. As examples, you have the Michigan Township Association, Michigan Association of Counties, the Michigan Municipal League is for cities. You have groups like the Michigan Association of County Clerks, of Local Clerks, and all of these are private organizations representing groups of public entities. And by the nature of what their members want, they always want more money. So they always lean to the left to begin with. And they essentially act as lobbying agents. Now, all the time, they're actually going against things that their individual members might actually want. As an example, when I worked for John Riley, we had a township board where we were trying to get permission for an outfit called the House of Providence, which takes care of foster children, to be able to expand a little bit in their community. And there was a group in Oxford that did not want that to happen and were intensively lobbying their township to block them from being able to do it, using zoning rules and all kinds of other things. And so we put in a proposal, and we put in a bill to allow them to expand from like 5 kids to 9, we're talking. But at the hearing, the Township Association came out against it and said, this infringes on local control. Well, the Township of Oxford didn't want to have this issue on their plate. They wanted to just be able to say, hey, it's not our problem, guys, it's the state. But so for that reason, the Township Association did not do what the local township actually wanted. So you have to remember, with groups like the Michigan Association of School Boards, all of their clients are government. So all they want is more power and less accountability. So, and it's so stupid how they come to Lansing and say, we represent the counties, we represent the school boards, and the lawmakers are like, oh wow, well, you must speak for all of these important constituents. I better do what you say. I mean, the way that they exert influence without even spending very much money on lobbying is amazing, but it's because of the lack of institutional knowledge in the legislature that these are really just freewheeling bureaucratic lobbyists. Mark says about the Michigan Department Board of Education, from what you said, I heard that limited power and most power comes from local school board. Yeah, mostly. I mean, well, let me see if I can get Tom McMillan on the show one of these days, because he could tell you a whole lot more. But yes, the Board of Education's power is very, very limited. When I worked in the representative's office, and we heard from superintendents and principals, no one ever complained about the State Board of Education. They complained about being mandated by law to administer the stupid work keys tests. They complained about what their school boards were doing, the local school boards. You didn't hear much about the Michigan State Board of Ed, because ultimately all of their power is derived from the legislature anyway. But yeah, I'm not sure. I thought I had something else to say about that, but maybe I don't. But anyway, I think that's probably about the big rundown for what's going on in these past few weeks. Hey, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that, Mark. Yeah, I mean, this is the nature of government. Every government institution leans to the left because they all want more money. They all want more power. And therefore, they all want more authority, more control, more ability to micromanage. And then they're always going to come back and say, oh, we need more money. We need more money. We need more money all the time. All right. Enough about legislative stuff, because, wow, already almost 30 minutes in, and I haven't even started talking about the Mackinac conference yet. So let's talk about the Mackinac conference, guys. By the way, let me know in the chat if you guys went to it. I'm just looking at Rumble chats here. Man, these bills passed it. Charlotte and Rumble says these bills passed. It's time to move out of Michigan. Don't like it anymore. Insane healthcare. They're really coming after your Second Amendment, and it's a scam to disarm you. Yeah, well, I will never advocate running away as a political strategy, because what they'll do is they'll conquer one state and move on to the next. And you think you're safe in states like Texas or Oklahoma? Not really. Look what happened with Ken Paxton. I mean, the fact is, in these hardcore Republican states, guess what? The Democrats just run as Republicans. And they have the same power structures. They have the same institutional problems. And in those states, it's really hard as a conservative to fight against the Republican establishment. Although Ken Paxton won, congratulations to him. Back in action again. Ready to defend, ready to do all the things that that so many of these Republican politicians say they're going to do. Ken Paxton actually does. So there you go. All right, Mackinac. I did not go. I didn't know if I wanted to go or not go. I was on the fence for a very long time. I wanted to see it, And then I heard that Alan Keyes was going to be a speaker at the Mackinac conference. And then I was really leaning towards going because I actually know Alan Keyes personally. And it's been a long time since I've seen him. But Alan Keyes used to be my next door neighbor, if you can believe that. When I was between 5 and 9 years old, Alan Keyes was my next door neighbor, and his son Francis was my best friend. Francis was born June 22nd, 1982, so I was about 10 months older than he was. We knew Alan Keyes very well. His wife Jocelyn was the one that first recognized that I was nearsighted. Francis was my age; we were best friends. His daughter Maya was a couple years younger. So I didn't know her too well. And then Andrew was the baby. They moved away when I was, I think, 9. So I didn't really stay in touch with them very often. But I did see Alan Keyes in 2013 when I was working in Washington. I went to the funeral for Howard Phillips, if you know who that is. He was a Nixon official who resigned because the Nixon administration wasn't letting him slash government enough. And then Howard Phillips formed the Constitution Party. Anyway, I was at his funeral. And sitting right next to me was, well, there's a little bit of an aisle, but right next to me at the funeral was Alan and Jocelyn Keyes. And they look over and Jocelyn goes, Autumn? She's Indian. So, Autumn, is that you? And so we had a great chat. And I only spoke to him for a little while because, it was a funeral. But I had, I would have loved to have had a chat with Alan Keyes up at the Mackinac conference. And then this email came out. This was so sad. This is from September 15th. So the week before the Mackinac conference, here we go. This is the email. You may have seen this put out by the Michigan Republican Party, Kristina Karamo. 9:41 a.m. Friday, September 15th. Maybe I should talk about this on my next stream when we've got someone else to talk about this with, like Amber or Patty or someone. But this email, you may have seen it. Dear Michigan Republican Party precinct delegates. Starting with a heading, and you already know this email is going to be long and miserable. And I don't even know where to start with this. I'm not going to read this whole damn thing to you. It's so repugnant and painful. Well, let's start with this point. All this stuff is bullshit. This is extremely misleading. And also, by the way, on its face, damaging. This is why so many people are fed up with the state party. And look, let me be clear about this. I understand the state party has institutional enemies. They have people who are Democrats who want the party to fail. It has rhinos who want Kristina Karamo to fail and will do anything they can to speed that process up. They're going to put stories in the media. They're going to put spin out and this and that and the other. I don't want the Michigan Republican Party to fail. I want the Republican Party to elect Donald J. Trump the president in 2024. I don't want her to fail. But that does not mean that we have to condone, make excuses for crap like this. This is inexcusable, and every single bit of it is entirely elective of Kristina. This is one of the later communications in a long back and forth string of emails between the Kalamazoo Republican Party and the state party. And again, I don't want to get into the weeds of the Kalamazoo GOP's issue tonight. The number one thing about this is the state party has no business meddling around in county parties, period. But she's decided to inject herself into this argument. And in fact, in doing so, just also completely mischaracterizing what is going on. I don't know how much I want to tear through this line by line. I think I don't, at least not now. I may do a video at some point that gets into the details of this. Like this, for example, citing a state law that was ruled unconstitutional by the courts. I mean, let me just say this to clear up for people what's going on and who actually has the authority to remove precinct delegates. Precinct delegates don't have any power at a county executive committee at all. The only place precinct delegates have power is at a county convention. And if a county, say a county executive committee or a district executive committee, chooses to censure or expel a precinct delegate, when they go to a convention, a county convention, the county convention does not go by your local party's bylaws. It goes by the convention rules. There is a temporary set of rules that typically comes from the county party, but then they have a convention under Robert's Rules of Order. They can amend the rules of the convention, and the convention delegates decide who has the authority. So all of this stuff is misleading. And furthermore, all this stuff also, by the way, doesn't even agree with a recent court decision in the Kalamazoo County case, when the court just basically washed their hands of the whole issue and said, we don't get involved in this. I mean, just look at this. How internal conflict impacts the Michigan Republican Party. And this is all airing dirty laundry. This is all embarrassing and confusing. To God be the glory, of course. Wrap yourself in the God flag. We know how that goes. I mean, look at this condescension. It would behoove every Republican leader across Michigan not to distract from the mission of the Republican Party like you're doing right now, Kristina. Doing the very thing you're browbeating counties that you don't agree with. This is unprecedented. You know, the rhinos in charge of the Michigan Republican Party never interfered with matters at the county and district level. Never. So when I saw that email come through on September 15th, that was when I decided for sure I will not give this state party a dime. But I have heard some things about the Mackinac conference. I heard the presentations were awesome, except Dinesh D'Souza, who canceled, probably because he wasn't paid. I also heard attendance was low. What a surprise. They actually had a straw poll, which it boggles my mind why they didn't publicize that in all the emails leading up to the conference. Hey guys, come out to take your straw poll. Like that's what motivates the campaigns to send people there. But this is the first Republican conference to have only in a presidential election cycle to have only one presidential candidate come at all. There was no Trump, there was no DeSantis, there was nobody except Vivek Ramaswamy. And I think the reason he came was because he knows somebody in Michigan who had been inviting him, and he's been working hard in Michigan, to his credit. So good for him. But all the other campaigns, I mean, I obviously the rhinos wouldn't send their people to come out to the straw poll, but yeah, Jay says the photos I saw on X look terrible. Room's only a third to a half full. Yeah. No surprise at all. And that's not a good look for a conference that's supposed to be a huge pep rally. But I have heard there is one thing that did go very well at the conference, and that is, thank God, they got the presidential primary sorted out. We still have 5 days left for them to screw it up, so hopefully that won't happen. So we'll see how that goes on October 1st. But if they at least got that right, that's praiseworthy. So we'll see. I don't know if they actually will or not. Yeah. See, here's the thing I find so amazing about Kristina Karamo. Let me put it this way. One of the things I tell candidates if I'm coaching them or whatever, there's a comedian, Brian Regan. You may have heard of him. Great comedian. You can find his videos on YouTube and stuff. And he did one of these interviews where someone asked him the worst question to ask a creative person. He says, how do you come up with your jokes? And to his credit, Regan took the question in stride. And one of the things he said was, well, one thing I always try to do is write against people's expectations of me. So, for example, like early in his career, he had this bit he did, I think it was in a commercial once about, I'm so goofy and absent-minded. I say the wrong things to people all the time. I get out of a cab at the airport and he says, have a nice flight. I say, you too, even though you're not flying today. And he says, as soon as I started seeing in the media that they were casting me as doing lots of jokes about how silly and stupid I am, I immediately stopped writing those kind of jokes and tried writing a different style of jokes because I don't want to be typecast by the media. And I would tell candidates, that's whatever stereotype your opponents, the media is trying to create for you, work against that. Karamo got elected by people who viewed her as this hardcore constitutionalist whose number one thing is going to be a hardcore Trumpster and a hardcore ideologue. So what do you do to fight against that is work the other way. Take the moral high ground. My job is to help Republicans win top to bottom. We want to bring everybody back into the fold. We're going to do things better now that we're in charge. We're not going to, illicitly support the establishment candidates in the primaries, but we all want to get together for a big victory in November, don't we, guys? Work against the stereotype that you're being cast into. And Kristina Karamo does the exact opposite. And that was the story in all the media was Karamo tells her critics to pound sand. I mean, vitriolic, acrimonious. And by the way, folks, when the media, you look at the stories, every single story in the media was Kristina Karamo tells critics to pound sand. When the media is all united in telling you to do that, this is something that you said, they all want the public to know this is what you said. They're doing it because it's a smart tactic. They're typecasting you, and you played right into it. So, the speaker lineup, obviously the media went crazy about, Dinesh and Jim Caviezel and Carrie Lake. I don't have a problem with that. But maybe some of the late ads, some of the some of the B listers she brought in were a little questionable, but whatever. But it amazes me that rather than try to appear to be a unifier, she continues to try to be a divider. And the result is that the conference, not just because of the lack of attendance and the money and stuff like that, but the impression that she's giving everybody in Michigan is that the Michigan Republican Party is being governed by fanatics. And that's hurting us at every level. And you saw this in that email on the 15th. She had no reason to get involved in this county party dispute. None at all. But she chose to inject herself into it repeatedly, by the way. And this is foolish. It's damaging. And it's embarrassing. So I'm not sorry I didn't go to the Mackinac conference. I am sorry I did not get to see Alan Keyes. And actually, I almost had a chance to see him on Monday in Petoskey, but then some other lousy twist of fate stopped me from being able to do that too. But that's another story. But one of these days I'll see Alan Keyes. Maybe he'll be our Lincoln Day speaker next year. I don't know. I mean, the speech is available, by the way, on the Midwesterner. They posted a link to it. Let me see if I can find it right now. Let's see if it's still on their homepage. Yes, it is. So let me put this on the screen. You go to themidwesterner.news and there it is. And you can see just a little bit south of the homepage is this link right here, live, Alan Keyes at the Mackinac Republican Leadership Conference. So check that out at the Midwesterner.news. By the way, they've been great. I love this site. I don't know who's behind it. Maybe it's Ventimiglia or Castilia or somebody. Whoever's behind this, good job. This is a very nice Michigan politics Drudge Report type website. Well, I shouldn't compare them to Drudge Report, but very, very good stuff. So be sure you check them out. The other big story these past couple of weeks was this has been going around everywhere, courtesy of Pat Colbeck, that apparently the claim is that Monica Palmer and William Hartman never certified the 2020 election in Detroit. So let's hold on. Let's take a moment to go back and look at all of the stories surrounding the Wayne County certification of 2020, because it was a huge story. It was a huge story. Y'all remember it. The Wayne County Board of Canvassers, which Wayne County's Detroit, didn't certify the election until they were promised a full audit by Jocelyn Benson. Then, and this is story after story. I'll pull one up right now. Hold on, put it up on screen. Here is one story out of hundreds of them. Michigan GOP backtracks after blocking vote certification. They attempted to rescind their certification. So here we go. Monica Palmer said poll books in certain places in Detroit were out of balance. I know that for a fact. I worked in one of them. So the panel in a split 2-2 vote voted against the certification of results. And then, let's see, is it in this story? No, it's not in this story. What? I'll go back. Hold on one second. This was a huge story that under pressure, they certified the election. Let's see here. Let me try this one. They want to rescind their vote after approving the Wayne County results. They initially voted against certification. Then they voted for it. The shocking move ignited a fierce public backlash over the course of the 3-hour public meeting. They changed their minds, endorsing a second unanimous vote, validating the vote, which included hundreds of thousands. Then they said they wanted to rescind it. So now they're Pat Kolbeck is claiming, and it's just going now everywhere, all over the place, that because they didn't sign the papers, the vote was never certified. Well, the problem is they very publicly voted to certify the results. So what is the point of any of this? What is the point of any of this? There's no constitutional remedy for this. But now you've got people going. In fact, I think the media was making jokes about this because Kolbeck tweeted, breaking news, they didn't certify the election because they didn't put their pen to the paper. But they voted for it at the meeting, and that's the vote that mattered. So what any of this accomplishes is beyond me. But now we get emails from people saying, hey, did you know that they actually never certified the Wayne County election? The Wayne County election, instead of talking about, the things that actually happened, absentee ballot fraud and so on and so forth, ballot dumps. Now they're talking about technicalities, technical details that are irrelevant, making the whole argument look even worse. Good job, guys. Speaking of embarrassments, Lauren Boebert getting caught vaping in a theater and then lying about it and getting groped by her boyfriend. A bimbo. The U.S. Senate ditching their dress code for John Fetterman. What else? Oh, one more thing I got in my notes tonight. I called it. I was right. I said, and some people didn't believe me, but as I predicted, Jocelyn Benson is not going to challenge Trump on the ballot unless the court tells her to, which the court won't. So I told you guys, don't worry. Still batting 1,000 on that. Benson backed off. There is no case for this. It can't go to the courts because the courts are going to, even the courts couldn't condone this kind of garbage. So that's not happening. Anything else I want to talk about tonight? I mentioned Ken Paxton. Oh yeah, the Nazis in Ukraine. I don't know, guys. I'm pretty tired tonight. I don't know if I want to get into the Nazis in Ukraine story right now. It's a whole other can of worms. It's late. I'm exhausted. I'm still sore. Maybe we'll talk more about Ukraine another time. Let me know in the comments, since I didn't hear anything in the chat, about us doing a debate stream tomorrow night. We may do and we may not. I don't know. We'll see what happens. If not, I still have another weekly live stream to make up, and there's still plenty of other stories to come. So for now, thank you all for tuning in on this this stream off of our regular, that's not on our regular nights. It wasn't announced, wasn't scheduled. Thank you for tuning in. Hope this clarifies some things, maybe, or maybe it didn't. I don't know. Mark says that'd be awesome. All right. Well, maybe we'll do one tomorrow then, just because Mark asked me to. So we'll see what we can do. Stay tuned. More to come. Until next time. Thanks for all you guys do for liberty. Until next time. Peace out.